So, hello, welcome, namaste, namaskar, good afternoon, good morning, or maybe even good evening in whichever part of the world you are joining us from. My name is Deepakar Khemani, and I am one of the co founders of Bloom. Today, on our 210th, yes, 210th non stop Sunday Bloom Talk Show, be it offline or online, be it rain or shine, every Sunday for the past 210 weeks, we've been here every afternoon on that Sunday at 12:30 in India, speaking to a person, to a trainer, to a coach, to a mentor, to a speaker, to an athlete, to an influencer, to a doctor, anybody who can inspire us and others through what they do, what they teach, how they live, and how they help other people become better. Continuing that series, we have with us today Nina John. Now, I have a huge write up of hers, which, if I read, will take a few minutes, but I'll just introduce her in a few words. Nina is a communications catalyst and a public speaking coach. She does international keynote speaking, storytelling for business. She is the author of Navigating the Corporate Seas Management Tips, Tools, and Techniques. She empowers organizations through mentorship and leadership. And of course, she is a public speaking coach for CXOs. Welcome to the show, Nina.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about what of yourself. What do you do? Why do you do? How did you become who you are today?
Oh, that's very simple. I think the way most people get into different professions, I started out with teaching or lecturing, so to speak, because I had done my MBA, and I still remember at my wedding reception, one uncle mourning, MBA, and you're getting married. Your MBA. So, of course, I said, oh, now I'll worry about the economic ordering quantity of salt and groceries. So he said, what a waste of an MBA. So I was like, okay, I better do something with that. So when I got married and came to Chennai, the first thing I did was take up a part-time visiting faculty of management at a local management institute over here. That stood me in great stead because it allowed me to keep in touch with my subject, to open me up to a whole new world of possibilities. One of the things that happened is that institute conducted a seminar for entrepreneurship. So I became part of that. We started a Women Entrepreneurs Association of Madras, and we went on with encouraging lots of women entrepreneurs. Because of all this kind of activity with different, organizing seminars, webinars, and a lot of contacts with the local management association, I started learning how to organize seminars, workshops, training, and I got into the training field. So then I did a whole lot of training with some blue chip companies. I was a trainer for ICICI and I think for over 10, 15 years.
Wow.
And so that's where I also learned the nitty gritty of training and behavioral skills, running workshops, all of those. So from there, it was a very natural, transition to facilitation, coaching, and all of this. And public speaking has been one of my passions. I've been with Toastmasters for over 20 years now, and empowering people with public speaking skills is one of the joys of my life. So that's where I am now.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Empowering people, especially CXOs, CEOs, and others, mid and top level management people to communicate effectively. And today's topic is communication for effective assertiveness. So we've got communication, then there is assertiveness, and then there is effective assertiveness. Tell us the difference. Isn't communication supposed to be effective and assertive?
Well, what happens is, by and large, as somebody said, we only talk so that we can interrupt the other person. We're not waiting for them to finish. We're not waiting to listen to them. We're not waiting to understand what they're saying. We are just ready with our conversations, with our point of view, our agenda, and we are jumping in with both feet. So one of the things we need to understand is the best speaker, The best conversationalist is the best listener.
Yeah.
It's only when you listen with an open mind, without any judgment, waiting till you have heard the entire argument, then you formulate a reply. And for that, I have what I call a three-part, the 3 R's. All right. So first, don't react. Don't just respond. Instead, reflect and then think about what you're doing and perform the needed action or with the necessary response. So that's my way of doing it. And I think when you do that, when the other person feels that you are genuinely listening to them, that you are genuinely understanding what they have to say, then they're much more likely to listen to your point of view. And even if you are going to make them take what is actually a directly opposite step from what they had envisaged, they are halfway ready for it.
Yeah.
So that's the way it is.
So the 3R formula, as you said, why do we behave the way we do? Why are we always, waiting to just interrupt someone and, put across our point of view? Why hasn't that been inculcated as a habit? Or are we humans wired that way? As soon as somebody says that, we have to respond back?
A bit of both. And I think sometimes there's a gender aspect to it. So there is a gender and an age factor to it. All right. One is gender-wise, women are not supposed to say anything, and they're definitely not supposed to answer back.
Yeah.
All right. They're not supposed to have an opinion. They're not supposed to know what's happening around the world. Sit in the kitchen, look after the kids. That's all your duty is.
Yeah, that's why that uncle told you are MBA and getting married.
Yes, exactly. So, and a generational thing. You're a child, you're a kid, you don't know anything. I am 60 years old, you're only 25 years old, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Listen to your elders. That's a very Indian generational thing also.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you combine these two and people are not, so the older person or the authority figure is not willing to listen to things that happen. And that's where you have the clash.
Yeah.
Because if you're not willing to listen, you're doing things your way and I want to do things my way, we will not have effective communication.
Yeah.
So we have to talk, we have to listen, we have to understand. Only then will we be able to communicate effectively.
So that was one part of, the reason why we do not wait and want to jump in, put in our point of view, ready to argue and prove that only I am right and what you're saying is wrong. However, we also know that, and you said that, women are not supposed to say, or children are not supposed to say, and only probably gray-haired people, will talk because of their experience, because they've, quote unquote, seen the world. वो बोलते हैं ना वो धूप में बाल सफेद नहीं किए हैं. So that is what, yeah. So how does one come down to the level or allow somebody else to rise up to your level so that the communication is effective?
First thing, if you're a team leader or even the head of a family, take time to get other people's opinions. So now, for example, if I'm part of a committee, a head of a chair of a committee or whatever, I make it a point to get the viewpoints of everybody in the team. So then after that, there are two things that happen. One, everyone feels that they have been heard and listened to. Second, when you collaborate and then you say, okay, now that all of us have said this, as the head of the committee, I feel this is the action we can take because you're still the head of the committee, the authority. You have the final responsibility and authority. This is the decision I'm going to take because all of you have given these inputs. We will go forward like this. And people who have had their input in the discussion are much more likely to take ownership of the decision afterwards, even if they disagreed with a part of it when it started.
Yes.
So that's a very important thing.
Yeah. And as it is said in leadership, the leader always speaks last. He hears out everybody or whatever they want to say, and then probably gives in his opinion or her opinion.
Absolutely.
Now, in our mind, we assume that if anybody is a leader, somebody who's risen to a level whom we consider as a responsible leader or a person in authority, the assumption is that they probably have good communicating skills, good communication skills. That's why they have reached there. We all also understand that that really is not the case. So then, how do people who aren't as effective become leaders?
Okay, now this is an axiom that I often repeat, that anyone can have good communication skills, but leadership is not necessarily a part of that. So any news anchor has excellent communication skills, but is not the kind of person you would follow. Right? The reverse is also true. A leader has to have good communication skills, because if you cannot translate your vision into words,
Yes.
your words into actions that others can follow, only then by your actions and words have you displayed your leadership, and therefore you have communicated more than with just words.
Yeah.
Then you find leadership and communication walking in together.
Yeah. I want to take you upon that last sentence of yours where you said, communication is not only words, there are so many other things involved in communication. So, for the uninitiated and for those who are already there, tell us a little bit more about this. Communication is not only words.
Okay. By communication, we're talking, any ad line, you look at your ads, you look at the taglines, come with me, fly with me, do this, do that. We only take it in on a superficial level, right? But when you have a leader who says, come, we will fight the British, we will bring we will assert our rights. That is leadership. And doing it, with actions. To go back to Gandhiji, the Khadi movement, the non-violence movement, the SALT movement, all of these displaying with action and integrity what he meant, not just a slogan.
Yes.
So when you find leaders just mouthing slogans and not following them up with actions, or displaying actions that are totally contradictory to what they have said, you discover the idol has clay feet and you are no longer as enamored of that leader as you used to be.
Yes. And you gave the example of Gandhi, and the most recent example which comes to our mind is Obama, when he said, and he took everybody along, he said, yes, we can. So he said, yes, we can, and then everybody came along. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to go back a little bit with the same example that you have, recently, we're having the presidential elections in the US, the nominations and the elections going on in the USA. So last year, when Kamala Harris was debating the previous Vice President Pence, there was a debate, and he kept talking to her and all the over her kind of thing. And she had just one sentence: I'm speaking now. Let me finish. And that is the essence of assertiveness.
Yes.
Being firm, being clear, being committed, understanding what you are standing for, and not letting anyone walk over you.
Yeah.
I'm speaking now. That is.
Yeah, you gave the example of Kamala Harris, and we've seen this across the world with a lot of leaders, especially in the political space. Many times, these people are really, really assertive, really good at communications, but sometimes on stage they will goof up, and they will goof up like mad, big time. How does this happen, and how do you overcome this?
There's one thing. When you're up on stage, if you are doing and saying whatever you have said and spoken about earlier, and it is what I would call an authentic message, you will not goof up. But if there is an inner contradiction to your words, your thoughts, and your actions, somewhere if there is a misalignment on stage, somewhere or the other, sometime or the other, it will come out.
So how does somebody in that position, you are a leader, you are a political person, you are in a place of authority, and now you have goofed up. How do you take care of this problem? Do you say, sorry, this was my mistake? or you try and justify that, I was in the flow, or I was, I haven't slept for 5 hours. How does a good leader communicate that, this was my mistake? Chalo, let's move on.
Right, okay. So sometimes you have, see, if you are a true leader, you also have the strength of character enough to say, yes, I made a mistake, I apologize.
Yeah.
And if I can give you another example, Mark Zuckerberg, right? When he fired 11,000 employees, the email he sent, I was wrong, I take responsibility. That is one of the finest leadership statements I have ever come across. I got this wrong. He took responsibility and he said, I am sorry. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, you gave this example and suddenly this thought came into mind. Some 12, 13 years ago, sometimes in 2009, 10, 11, I think, the then Jet Airways chairman fired a few thousand people overnight. And 2 days later, he came back, did a press conference, and he said, after firing, I went home and my daughter, who is also an employee, told me that, Dad, what have you done? Even if you can't afford it, imagine the plight of these people, who are dependent on a salary, who have a home and who have loans and EMIs to take care of. How did you do this thing? And the next day morning, he comes back and he says, even though I don't have the financials, I don't know what I will do, but I take back my decision of firing you all. Come back to work tomorrow, And
that's a true leader. That's a true leader.
Yes, yes. Now, we also know that there are different styles of communications. Tell us a little bit about each style.
One is what we just spoke about, the assertive style. The other is the aggressive style, which we are seeing far too often on TV and other places where, it's as Margaret Thatcher once said, if they can't find any faults with your argument, they'll start insulting you personally. And that shows the level of the argument. So again, to quote Michelle Obama, she said, when they go low, we go high. So you have to decide whether you are going to be aggressive in return, because unfortunately, when you are aggressive in return, when you're hostile, when you're doing all of these things, you evoke hostility. And it just becomes a tutu meme kind of a thing, and it degenerates sometimes even into a fist fight. This happens even at home. So what I tell women, pick your battles. If it's a small thing, just stay quiet. And aunt of mine had this great thing. She said, I will go and knead the chapati dough and I'll hammer it and you'll get the softest chapatis. I'm mad at my husband. So there are ways of doing that.
So if you want soft chapatis, go and have a fight with your wife.
So do it before she does the chapatis, otherwise you'll have the bail flying at you. So.
Yeah, and I can see Brenda having a hearty laugh, and she's, somewhere, I think she's in the bus on the way to her flight. Brenda, before you fly off and then we cut you off or you get cut off, say a few things. I would normally bring in you to the end, but go ahead, tell us something. Unmute yourself. You'll have to unmute yourself, Brenda.
I don't want to disturb the whole bus, but one or two comments. First of all, you said Obama said, yes, we can. I don't know whether you heard his speech 2 days ago where Michelle spoke very well and then she brought her husband and his whole speech was, yes, she can.
She can.
And another thing that where Nina spoke about leadership and communication, I think it is really not possible for a person to be a good leader without being a communicator. Because I think Warren Buffett said that trying to be a good leader without communication skill is like winking at a woman in the dark and hoping that something will happen.
To add to that, one of the things that you also have to remember if you want to be a good leader, is that a good leader does not necessarily have to be nice all the time. It is the values of the organization or whatever you are working for that you have to keep in mind. Sometimes that means letting go of people, because Mark Zuckerberg and all these people are doing. Sometimes it means telling someone to, you had better pull up your socks, because if your performance is not helping us. And that is also where assertive communication comes in.
Yeah.
When the leader tells the person, your performance is not up to the mark.
Yeah.
He or she does not say, you are not up to the mark. See, that difference in language
Yes.
makes the world of difference.
Yeah.
When you say, this is what we are looking for this target or this quarterly, and and there the leader uses we language. We have not been achieving our goals for the last 2 quarters.
Yeah.
What do you think is the problem? And when that person feels that, okay, I can contribute, I can do better, you will have a great performer and a great member of the team.
Yes.
But when the leader says, your performance was not up to the mark, this is why we are having losses, you lose a team and your performance becomes worse.
Yes.
So that, it reminds me of another story where this employee was admiring his boss's brand new Lamborghini standing in the factory premises. And he says, wow, sir, that's wonderful. And the boss says, that's right. Keep working harder and I'll get another one next year. So the leader must, motivate people to work for themselves, not as a, slave for him to get more profits or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. So, we've spoken about aggressive and we've spoken about assertive. And before I take you a bit further, let me take you on what you said something just now. There are people and then there are organizations. Then we have people working for those organizations. What if my values as a person or maybe even a leader do not match with those as of the organization, but I have no point. I mean, I have no choice. I can't leave the organization for whatever reason. How does that work and how do you combine both so that at least there is a middle way forward?
I think this is one of the biggest dilemmas facing employees today, because they may be working in an organization that is doing things that absolutely do not match with their own values, their own principles, and this is where being totally passive comes in, that passive form of communication. You are listening, you are doing things, you are just obeying what is required.
Yeah.
But the trouble with being passive is that all that resentment is churning inside of you.
Yes.
And this is where the mental wellness problems of employees start. That inner conflict. What my parents taught me, what my organization taught me, what am I doing to help society? What am I doing for the organization to further itself? Yeah. Why do I need to make more money for my boss to buy a yacht instead of a Lamborghini?
Yeah.
When my fellow employees are being laid off.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of dilemmas we have. And the thing is, if I push back or if I blow the whistle, will I be endangering my fellow employees? Will I be endangering my organization?
Yeah.
So this is where being totally passive, this is where it becomes the burden. And this is why we say move from being passive to assertive, because if you do not make your feelings known, you will be the one constantly having this resentment, constantly. And then, it's like a pressure cooker. It just erupts one day.
Yeah.
So as all the emotional intelligence people say, first thing, understand your feelings. Put words to them. Say, why am I uncomfortable in this situation? What is it that is obstructing me from being a better employee? What can I do to make my workplace better for others? All of these things, So therefore, those are the things we need to understand. Employees, family members in a toxic environment, this is what happens. They cannot speak out, but then that rage keeps building up. Sometimes it's channeled elsewhere and, the children get a beating or something else happens or whatever. But unless there's a channel for that, it will continue to churn and it might erupt in some way or the other. So channel it in different ways. If you can do it in constructive ways, that's good. Otherwise, being totally passive is being a doormat is not good for you or the other person either.
Yes, yes, well said. Don't be a doormat. Move from passive to active. And I just want to take you up on something that happened just a few days ago. You know, the Starbucks replaced its CEO with a person who is now staying 1600 kilometers or miles away from where, and he says, I will travel to and fro, but I will not relocate. Now, this is a huge PR nightmare. Everybody is cursing him on, social media and telling him what happened to ESG and climate change and save the planet and carbon footprint. Now, what happens in this case? How does a company and even the person who's going to become CEO handle this backlash?
Exactly. So he just end up getting fired. That's all. It's just a question of when, not a question of if. He'll either be fired by the board itself or at the next shareholders meeting.
Yeah.
And the company cannot afford this PR fallout.
Yes, yes, yes. So again, when a company is looking out for people, whatever level they may be, entry level, mid level, top level, when they are reshuffling or bringing in new people, how do they see and check out, during the interview process or the selection process, that this person is actually aligned to who we are and what we stand for?
There are lots of ways of doing that, and I think the personal interview is still the best. Finally, one personal physical interview is the best way of doing that, and there's everything that and most companies now have already checked out your social media. They have already checked you out on other fronts, rather than just looking at your resume and saying you've ticked X number of boxes, so therefore you're a fit. That is not enough of being a fit.
Yeah.
So you have to have probing questions. You have to have something more than that.
Yeah. So we spoke about aggressive. We spoke about a little bit about passive. We spoke about, what about some people whom you just listen to them in one or two sentences? Neither they are assertive, not they are aggressive, but they are loud. Loud. There are some people who are really loud, and you won't fit them into aggressive or assertive. How do you classify these people and then deal with such sort of people?
Here again, I think it's a question of nurture, in the sense that as children, they were never taught to stay quiet.
Yeah.
And probably as sons of the family, allowed to say what they want, when they want, where they want. Whereas women are always told, be quiet, stay out of sight, all of those things.
Yeah.
So women are, by society, pressured into being quiet, staying quiet.
Yeah.
And the men are allowed to, especially in our Indian society, in many of there's always this thing of, ladka hai, kuch bhi karne do. He's a boy, let boys be boys, all that kind of thing. Yeah. So what happens is it continues into adulthood. So they refuse to take corrections. So now, for example, casual sexism, as we call it, right? I find that I get very annoyed when people use terms like girls for other professionals in the organization. I mean, these are highly ranked, professionally qualified leaders in their own field. Yeah. And just because they're on a committee with you, you cannot refer to them as girls.
Yeah.
And when I pointed that out to somebody, they said, "Oh, that's the way I operate."
Mm.
And I remember there was a seminar of administrative, executive assistants, administrative assistants, and they were all, it was at a 5-star hotel, and they had a guest speaker. And he was like, in my day, they called you secretaries.
Oh.
And the whole hall was like, death glare from 500 women is not funny, I'm telling you. And he's like, oh, well, I don't know what you call yourselves now, but to me, a secretary is a secretary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you cannot break that iceberg. You cannot.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do.
Yes. As a leader, as an effective communicator, let's say you've got two styles and you understand that when I'm speaking to this particular audience or this set of people, I need to be a little bit more aggressive. Whereas this side, I need to be a little bit more passive. Do you come across leaders who got these multiple traits where they, switch on or switch off, or, just wear this hat and then become this sort of a communicator? Or do you need to teach them? They need to learn how to do this. In your experience, how does this work?
So I was just remembering an old saying, a tiger at home and a mouse in the office, or vice versa. So, where you are the tiger and where you are the mouse depends entirely on the environment. And it is very true. So you will find that this is especially true of people who are, seemingly passive, passive aggressive, as we call it. They're very quiet, mousy in the office or whatever, but at home they're bullies.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a question of, the environment and how much freedom you have for anything. So like somebody was saying, wife beating, right? People come home and they come and say, oh, I had such a bad day in the office, my coffee is so bad, and he beats the wife.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a bad day in the office, why are you not beating the boss?
Beat the coffee.
Beat the boss. I mean,
the boss, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why do you have to come home and take it out on the wife? Because in the office, you're a passive doormat.
Yeah.
But at home, you're the head of the family. So you're taking it out on the nearest object, which is your wife.
Yes.
So that is one way of looking at it. And that is exactly what we're talking about, being passive or aggressive for different audiences. That's the answer to your question.
So when somebody comes and tells you, or you meet somebody, or somebody says, I'm a leader, I'm climbing up the corporate ladder, help me with my communication skills. One, how do you identify where he or she are currently? And then what are the steps you take to move them up, to move them from one state to another? What is your process? How do you help them?
One is, of course, this very fact that they want to move up. All right. And when you're talking to them, you realize, they're probably mid to senior. They're making that transition from mid to senior management, or they're moving from senior management to a more global level. And the kind of language that they use is always I and they. But if you are senior management, you have to say, we took this decision.
Yeah.
We have decided. Because now I am part of the management.
Yes.
So that mindset has to change. And then when that mindset changes, your view of yourself changes. You're no longer just climbing, you've arrived. This is how I need to assert myself.
Yeah.
These are the words I need to use.
Yeah.
And this is how I need to carry out my duties.
Yeah. When somebody is coming to you and they are probably mid-level, they are clearly somewhere between the 35, 40, 45 age, bracket. And there is this, if I may use the word baggage, there is that style. That is what they have been. That is who they are. How easy or how difficult is it to mold these sort of people to what you are trying to tell them, teach them, and share with us a few of your stories, probably one or two success stories, and one maybe you tried your best and the person couldn't improve.
Right. So there was one person I took on for coaching for, he himself wanted to go on to become a coach and other things. So when he started, I would say middle level this thing. So we literally, I would correct the grammar in, for example, he'd make these flyers. So even something showing them the difference in the flyers when you don't have spelling mistakes, how you should phrase it. So different ways of phrasing the material in flyers when you're giving it out for your workshops. The way you target your market audience using different language, depending on the kind of level you're attracting. Is it mid-level or junior level people? How would you attract them? Why should people come to your workshops? And all of those. Today, after about, say, 8 months, the difference is phenomenal.
Wow.
This person has gone on to, see, it's not just me. Very often, all I'm doing is facilitating.
Yes.
Read these books, and helping people to learn to read. biggest accomplishment, because
Yeah.
in school and college we're only taught how to learn by heart.
Yeah.
We don't read for pleasure, we don't read for
Yes.
understanding. And
Yeah.
this whole thing of the triple L philosophy, lifelong learning, unless you are willing to learn, you will not grow.
Yeah.
And unless you're willing to read, it will not happen. Reading on the mobile does not count. Okay. So you have to read books or whatever it is, or at least the articles on LinkedIn, the all of those things.
Yeah.
Even reading the taglines people have on LinkedIn,
Yes.
is such an education in itself. So and so you pick up phrases.
Yes.
So that becomes a very important part of changing your vocabulary.
Yeah.
And changing your vocabulary shows you how to grow. It shows you how to impact in terms of both written and spoken skills.
Yeah.
So you use the right terms at the
Yeah.
right place to the
Yes.
right audience.
Yeah.
That makes the difference.
Yeah. You spoke about vocabulary, you spoke about grammar. Then there is this spoken English, and I'm particularly referring to your, that typical feeling when you listen to a person and you say, this guy is a Punjabi, or this guy is a Bengali, or this guy is from Mumbai, typical Mumbai language, or they'll say typically this person is from South. How do you help as a communications coach, as a catalyst? How do we get rid of this? That thing where we have grown up in our area. In Mumbai, I will say fixed deposit. Somebody in the South says fixed deposit.
Right.
I use T, they use TH. So how does that then? How do you improve and work upon that?
Yeah. So I always say we Indians are born with the facility for 3 languages.
Yeah.
The one we speak at home, the one we go to school and learn, and the one in our neighborhood. You could be a Gujarati living in Tamil Nadu. You will pick up Tamil with all your friends.
Clearly.
Yeah, without worrying about it. So the thing is, first of all, don't be ashamed of your accent. Point number 1. Don't feel inferior about the mother tongue influence or that.
Yes.
What you need to do is learn to enunciate your words.
Yeah.
So what happens is, when you speak at a slower pace, people are able to catch on to what you are saying. And the human ear is wonderful. It adapts to different accents without any problem.
Yes.
So yes, you might have a twang, you might have a Punjabi accent, you might say iskul, then I say, that comes there. Or in the middle of this really polished thing, Aisa hua ki, and one key will pop up somewhere. North Indian. So,
yes. Keys, does, and all that. Yeah. I remember when my daughter was 2 years old, and we were getting her admitted to a nursery, and that was the first contact she had with English as a language. So I went and met the principal of the nursery, and I asked her, should we now start talking to her in English in the house? She said, no, nothing doing. You speak to her in Sindhi, because that is the language she will learn from home. I will teach her English. And you know what? This girl learned Sindhi, our mother tongue, from us, English from the school, and Hindi from outside.
Exactly.
all the boys and girls in the neighborhood. I mean, she was so cute. Everybody used to pick her up, and she used to be more outside with others rather than be at home. And she picked up Hindi from there.
Exactly.
So you gave that example of 3 languages, and actually, that's how real life is.
Yeah. Exactly. And our mother tongues are dying out unless we speak.
Yes. This is another huge problem. I tell everybody in our community, there have been times when I'm speaking to our children in our mother tongue, and our family people, you are speaking to daughter in Sindhi? Baba, if I don't speak to my daughter in Sindhi, who will speak to her in Sindhi? How will she learn that language? So clearly the mother tongues are dying. I think in one generation or in probably 2 generations, a lot of languages will simply be lost, because everybody wants to learn English or probably one foreign language and then go abroad and whatnot. So,
but there's a bit of a caveat to that.
Yeah.
So you'll find that people who immigrated generations earlier,
yes,
they have their idea of what the culture was when they left, and they fossilize it.
Yes.
So now, for example, in Malaysia, I came across the example of, we have this church thing where the child is baptized and stuff.
Yeah.
They said in Malaysia, the baby is, they put coconut milk. And I was like, in Kerala, no one heard of that coconut milk thing at all. And I knew a college professor in Mumbai who insisted that his daughter should wear half saris when the rest of the college was wearing mini skirts.
Oh.
So sometimes, and in America, you find absolutely fossilized, whatever happened, things that my grandparents followed, those traditions, customs, they're following faithfully. So there's actually another gap coming up between the ones over here and there.
Yes, yes.
So,
You've got these Tamil associations in the US and Telugu associations and Gujarati associations and what.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, where are the Indian associations?
Yeah, that is food for thought. Where are the Indian associations?
Where are the Indian associations? You're going abroad and you're dividing ourselves more.
Yes, yes.
So that is assertiveness on another level, asserting your ethnic identity. But at what level?
Yes, yes. Also sometimes you come across some people who are really, really very, very soft-spoken. I mean, really soft-spoken, but at positions of leadership. How does that work? I mean, how do they manage to get across what they want to say, or the people of the team or people surrounding them have understood that this person is soft-spoken and that's the way it is and we have to live with that, or we have to follow what
they accept that quiet authority. See, that is where domain expertise comes in.
Yeah.
Where you know your subject. You don't need to shout. You don't need to yell. You just, it. And then, everyone just comes to you either for specific technical things or some of the older people. I'm sure you know a lot of uncles, aunts, very quiet, but everyone goes to them for advice, counseling.
Yes.
Very quiet. Yeah. But they will give you gems, absolute gems. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's their leadership style. That's fine.
Yeah. So then, there are some people who will speak only in one-liners, You ask them a question which is a paragraph long, but you get a one-line answer. Then there are some people whom you ask a one-sentence question and they will give you paragraphs of answers. So, I mean, have you come across such people? And just share with us. And how does that work?
Yes. Oh, yes. And there was hilarious, a seminar where somebody was asking questions. So this guy was going in, or chairman cuts in. Do you have a question, or are you going to continue talking? It was hilarious. You can't help it. Some people are born with verbal diarrhea, so they just go on and on and on. So that's
verbal diarrhea. Wonderful. Very well said. So let me see if Abhijit is around. Abhijit, can you hear us? Would you like to speak with Neena? Ask a question, Abhijit.
How many people do we have? I can't see anything.
So we have 12 people who are live currently. There may be some people on YouTube. So let me do this till Abhijit can hear me or answer back. Anybody from the audience would like to unmute themselves and ask Neena a question about communication, assertiveness, and what we've been discussing for the past 45 minutes. Please unmute yourself. Go ahead and ask.
So while people are thinking of questions, can I also add one more point?
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
So there is what we call emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Right? So we're talking about one, understanding your own feelings. What am I feeling now? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling resentful? Am I feeling upset?
Yeah.
What is the degree of that feeling that I have? Second question, why am I feeling this? Am I feeling upset because my name was not called? I was not called to the stage. I was not asked to take up this assignment. Am I feeling angry and resentful because I've done the work and somebody else is getting the credit?
Yes.
Am I getting angry because I did all the work and that person snatched the credit from me?
Yes.
The boss said that person did the job. Understand your feelings. That helps you so much in being empathetic and understanding what the other person is feeling.
Yeah.
Then you will find that when you can label your emotions and label their emotions either, and understanding where they are coming from. See, very often aggressiveness is coming from a place of inner insecurity.
Hmm.
I have to shout to make myself heard.
Yes.
I have to prove I'm the boss.
Yeah.
I have the authority. I can discipline you. I can fire you. I can do this. I want to show the world that I am the boss.
Yes.
So you understand that and just stay quiet till the eruption is over and then come back and quietly make your point. Life is much, much easier.
Easier. Yeah. Well said. And there is this phrase in communication which says lost in translation. And I just want to take you up on that. Many a times we find somebody saying something, but they are actually trying to mean something else. So how do you get across that communication? No, Baba, I was trying to say this, but you understood this wrongly. Or when two leaders of, two different countries meet and the languages are different, we find there is a translator who's translating from one language to another. Many a times, what was being said is actually lost in translation. Just tell us a little bit about that.
So one is, of course, do you have the right words for what you are saying?
Yes.
So especially in a diplomatic situation like this, I'm sure all the leaders should be sitting down and very carefully going over the words and the nuances and the implications of each word.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, like the Indo-Chinese territory thing. Have we taken over your territory? Have we possessed it? Have we abdicated it?
Yeah.
What have we done? What is happening?
Yeah.
So this is where you also have what we call changing the narrative. So you have the same incident
Yes.
described in two different ways by two different parties.
Yeah.
So that's where sometimes a lost in translation is a very deliberate thing, where you want to change the words so that you want the other person to hear your version.
Yeah.
So I was very angry with my husband one day because his friend said something and I said, that is an absolute lie. And my husband is trying to soothe me down and saying, no. That is his version of the truth at this moment in time. So there are two his version of the truth at this moment in time, because this is how he sees it now.
Yeah.
And that's his reality. So sometimes that's also there.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting down with a person and we were talking something similar to what you shared. He said there are always three sides of the truth or the story. It's yours, theirs, and the truth. So at that particular time, what you're thinking or saying is that particular version of that story.
Exactly.
It may actually be turned out to vastly different from what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, please go ahead.
No, any questions from the audience?
Nobody has thought or got the courage to ask a question to you. Akshata, you want to say something? Ask. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
I don't have a question. I am just seconding everything that Neena has just said. And I love the quote that you just reiterated, where there are three sides to every story. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for tuning in and listening to what she's saying. Once Neena says something, it's very difficult to, not agree with her, because she's an assertive communicator and she's teaching others how to, be an assertive communicator. So she's damn assertive over there. One question to you, Neena, and I'm sure you must have come across this a lot in your career. I was sitting with a friend the other day, just 2 days back, and he was discussing how difficult it was for him to grasp English after moving from school to college. So school was vernacular, and English was only one subject. And when you go to college, it suddenly became an all English subjects. How difficult is it for people to graduate or move on from school to college, and then after graduating or MBA, move into corporate and then try to, at least look like a confident communicator? How difficult is it?
It depends entirely on the individual. Entirely. So, like I said, when I was doing these banking, training programs, I used to play vocabulary games just for, icebreakers and stuff like that. And there was this one gentleman who grew up in a village in interior Tamil Nadu. So he had this transition problem over there.
Yeah.
And he said one of the things he used to do is, of course, he would write down a word from the dictionary, and put it in his pocket and, memorize that and its meaning. Today, that gentleman can quote from any book that you have.
Wow.
And when you're discussing a book with him, he will say, oh, wasn't it wonderful what he said on page 152? And I'm like,
Incredible.
Incredible. On the other hand, I went to America, and I'm sorry to say I met some people who have been in America for 30 years, and their English is pathetic.
Yes.
And I'm like, hello? English is the one language you can learn anywhere because you've got movies, billboards, you've got your product packaging. You can read, if you want to learn, everywhere it's possible, especially English.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of keeping your eyes and ears open. And one thing that I tell my executive trainees, read your emails carefully. Your boss's emails probably have words, terms, technical terms that are very useful. Memorize those and use those in your sentences and your emails back.
Yeah.
It improves your vocabulary and it gives you a better look for this thing. And it's the one thing that will help you stand out in terms of your career growth.
Yeah.
Because I keep saying, at the end of the day, it is your signature at the end of an email and your voice at the other end of a telephone line that tells other people what your standard of communication is. I'm not saying English, I'm saying your standard of communication.
Yeah. Now, since you spoke about standard of communication, in your view, is there a direct relationship or a proportion between intellect and being able to communicate well? So somebody who's an intellectual could probably communicate well or not, or is it only on the individual?
Again, I'll give you an example where many years ago I attended a seminar which had 2 college students and 1 faculty. That was the audience. And we had one professor from IIT teaching chemistry. He came and bumbled his way through a ridiculous presentation, which I still think is the worst presentation I've ever seen. And after that, one gentleman came and I'm talking about 30, 35 years ago, where he, no notes, no paper, nothing. And he was talking about biotechnology, the impact of biotechnology on our lives. And in that time, 35 years ago, he was giving us like case studies about artificial insemination, the socio-legal implications of something like that. He did it in language that was so simple and lucid and clear. Every single college student understood every single word. So it's just a question of application, nothing else. Trying to impress and trying to express, 2 different things.
Impressions and expressions are way, way, way different. They are not the same.
Use big words for the sake of using big words, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, we have Shashi Tharoor in that space,
See, I think he's a very much maligned person. I think we use him.
No, I love him, except for those long words which he uses. He's very, very articulate. Yeah,
he's very articulate. We just constantly, it's like a search engine. We're just looking at the big words and saying, "Oh wow, I didn't know that word. Oh wow, what a big word." His language is fantastic and very.
Yes. He's very, 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 very polished. Most of the words he uses should become hashtags. So you either, use them or you ignore them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's 55 minutes since we've been talking with Neena, and let me again ask anybody from the audience if they want to say anything. Ram Prasad ji, anything you would like to add to what Neena has been saying just now to all of us?
No, sir, I don't want to ask anything. But as a finance officer, people were very much afraid of me. I don't know why I never told anybody anything else. So that baffled me till now, even after retirement. I don't know why the people fear me.
Neena, help Ram Prasad out a little bit.
Yeah, you need more connection. You need to ask them direct questions and say, "Don't be afraid of me. I don't bite." Just put a little humor into it. And sometimes, what you can do is ask a question. And one of the things you can say is, one of the questions people ask, you have a leading thing, then people will, it will trigger thoughts, and then more people will ask questions.
I remember when I'm speaking to a crowd which is either non-responsive or, somehow seeing lost, I tell them I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat people, so don't worry.
Exactly.
In fact, in my case, the people were afraid of the questions what I used to ask them.
Oh.
Because they don't have the answers.
Yeah.
I remember there were the few files on which I wrote something and asked some question. The file never came back even for years.
Yes. This is something I really, encounter this regularly, and I've been a person who always keeps on asking questions, especially when I go to the seminars and conferences. Some people tell me, Deepak, you are trying to show off. No, I'm not trying to show off. There is something which I don't understand, and if you call yourself as an expert and you are standing up on stage, please tell me the meaning of this. I need to understand this. This finally reached a point after a few years. All these people got to know me. Before going up on stage, they will come and whisper in my ear, Deepak, aaj please kuch question nahi puchna. It is very embarrassing for us on the stage.
No, but to get back to our original topic, I think one of the ways you can assert yourself is by asking questions.
Yes.
And so, and being assertive is being firm, being polite, courteous, all of those things, and respectful, but getting your answer.
Yeah.
So asking questions in a very, very courteous manner, saying, I'm sorry, I did not understand this. Can you please explain it to me? Yeah. Is a way of getting an answer and asserting yourself. And when you clear your doubts like that, half the audience is like, thank God somebody asked that question. Yeah. I was trying to ask the same question,
Yeah.
So
before we conclude, we've got 2 or 3 minutes. Tell us a little bit about body language. How does it help, and sometimes doesn't help in the message you're trying to say or give out?
Absolutely. So eye contact is the first part of it. So being passive is your eyes are always downcast. You're just looking at the ground. You're the student in the principal's office being shouted at. So you're looking at the doormat and the principal is shouting at you.
Yeah.
So that is your passive thing. Aggressive is the principal shouting at you and his or her eyes are on you. So that's the eye language, eye contact that works.
Yeah.
Assertive is both of you sitting at the table together and looking each other in the eye.
Yes.
So that is very important. So you have to be, shoulders back straight and ask the question. So that itself shows that you are not willing to be cowed down or bullied or whatever. And you have something to say.
Yeah.
You're not being rude. You're not being disrespectful, but you have a point to make and you will make that point. So again, the language and the pace at which you speak. You don't shout. You say it clearly, firmly, and you say it slowly so that the other person can understand.
Yes.
So voice modulation, body language, both of them come together.
Yeah. Another thing, if everybody in the audience is there and if they've been noticing, people who are assertive communicators tend to use their hands a lot. And if you've been observing Nina, the hands move along with what she's trying to say. So a lot of effective communicators actually either, knowingly or unknowingly, use their bodies, their hand movements, or even their face and neck movements, eye movements to try and add to what they are saying. That amplifies the communication. It amplifies the message. It gives an added push to what is being said. So the audience gets it. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I'm asserting to you. This is what it means to come to you, listen to me, and try and understand what I'm trying to say. So this is classic assertive communication. A lot of hand movement and body movement.
And the other classic aggressive is, I want you thump the table. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And if you listen to motivational speakers and somebody like Tony Robbins in a live show, are you with me? Say yes, and then you are saying yes 20 times and it still goes on. Say yes and say yes. Before you do that fireworks, he takes you through all that, all that mind process. And
Absolutely.
when you are in that mood, with 8, 10, 12,000 people in the auditorium, it's a totally different feeling. So
absolutely,
that is what assertive communication is. So it's 1:30. Yes.
Thank you so much.
1:30 on a Sunday afternoon. We've been speaking with Nina for the last 1 hour. I have enjoyed hosting you as I have done over the past 200 and probably 200 of the 210 episodes of the Sunday Bloom Talk Show. Thank you, Nina, for taking time out, joining us, sharing with us your experience so that we all can become just a little bit more aggressive and assertive communicators.
Awesome.
Take care. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. See you next Sunday.
God bless. Thank you, Nina.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for a lovely talk. Thank you, Deepak, for all those wonderful questions.
See, I didn't even speak with you even 5 minutes before the show. Payal was supposed to be there and she suddenly felt sick and she said, Deepak sir, aap le lenge. Don't worry. 1 hour Q&A is easy anytime with anyone.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. God bless us all. See you next Sunday.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.